Hello Yugioh fans, Madarant here, and welcome to a discussion video on Cupidity and how it's affected the OCG currently and how it could affect the TCG. So first I'm going to go over what the card does and then go over what its competition is essentially in the TCG and what decks it has affected in the OCG later on in the video. The links to those specific sections will be in the description below. So first, let's go off over Cupidity. It's coming out in the Dark Illusion, most likely as a secret rare, knowing Konami. This is filmed before the rarity has been announced, but it's Konami, they want to make money, so Cupidity is probably going to be a secret rare. But then again, we thought this was going to be an ultra rare in Cross Souls, and it turned out to be a sharp print common. So we don't know what Konami would actually put as this rarity. But essentially, this card is very powerful. You banish the top 10 cards of your deck face down as cost, so if this is negated, it's a heavy cost. But to draw 2 cards. This is Pot of Greed at its simplest terms. Not to mention it gives you further consistency in your deck, as you just took away 10 more cards from it, basically taking you down 12 and giving you more consistency to draw those remaining 20 or so cards from your deck. This also allows you to play larger amounts of cards in your deck, with the maximum being 60. Some 60 card decks have been able to top due to Cupidity. So yeah, that is very, very powerful indeed. Giving you extra consistency, basically taking 12 cards out of your deck, can be very good, particularly for OTK decks. It's a very good enabler for OTK decks compared to what is currently out there. This is currently in reference to Pot of Duality and Card Demise, both unlimited, but they stop your special summoning. They don't allow you to go OTK that turn. It's more for setup and control based. Whereas Cupidity, if you are doing a grind game, this is bad because you're going to have 10 cards less than your opponent. You may deck out. However, if you're going to end the duel in this turn or 2 turns later, this can be phenomenal as it gives you basically 2 more cards into your deck, into your hand I should say, and you can go off a lot there. If you have cards that allow you to draw, like Gear Turtle Lizard Draw combo, you're going to get even more chance of getting those cards from your deck. And we all remember what happened on this April ban list. Upstart Goblin went to 1 and Chicken Game got banned. So we have more of a window to add this Cupidity into our deck for OTK decks, because this would use in, for example, Despot. Despot used Upstart Goblin to keep the consistency, and Chicken Game was used in Super Quantums to gain more consistency in their turbo form. This can be the new turbo form Cupidity with stuff like Upstart, well, that one Upstart and One Day Apiece possibly. You never know what Cupidity can do essentially, but I think it's going to do a lot in the upcoming months as it's released. I think this is going to be a very expensive card when it comes out, like Ghost Reaper is going to be in the release of Shining Victories next week, and Sneak Peek this week. But essentially this card will be expensive, and it depends on your deck obviously. So here's some examples that the OCG has used. The first is Barrier Stun. This is a bit more control-y. It's based with Card Demise as well as Upstart Goblins and Pot of Dualities. They have Upstart free, but they still choose to use Cupidity. It says a lot about the card. That major +1 could be better than the Upstart's theory of 37 cards. It also allows you to play more cards in the deck, as this is 45, but generally you won't be going into all of these. It's very controlling. After your opponents can't do anything, you can eventually just beat down, and Cupidity could give you that extra bits of back row when you don't have Card Demise or you don't have your Duality, which can be very good. Next one is Blue Eyes. Blue Eyes are more or less OTK based. This one isn't 100% OTK based. It has a little bit more options for going second in a duel, but essentially this is very turbo essentially. Draw 2 cards, draw 2 cards, draw 2 cards, add 2 cards. So much turbo in this deck to essentially get to your OTK as fast as you can. Not about the grind. And again, 46 cards in the deck. That's more than most TCG players would ever play in their deck. Then we have Blue Eyes with the rituals, so even more consistency. This deck has a lot of free ofs. In a deck with a lot of free ofs, it's more than likely you're not going to banish all those copies, and you're more than likely going to still be able to go off with those cards. For example, if you banished all your Manjus, you're going to have a lot of issues trying to get that ritual spell. But since you're playing free, if it hits 2 of them and you get 1 of them in that draw, does it matter anymore? No, because you'll be going for that OTK, and this is using Speed Rose as well. So it can have some hindrance with like Red Eye Dice, which is one of, but in that deck it's not essential for the game state. So yeah, very good indeed. And then there's Dark Magicians. This is the only Dark Magician deck that has actually topped in the OCG at the moment, and that is with Pot of Cupidity. I don't think they would have topped if they didn't have Cupidity. It gets them down to their lockdown with Secret Village, with their back row, with their control style, with that Magic Circle, combined with Magician's Navigate and Eternal Soul. There is problems with using this in this deck, is the fact that you could end up banishing 2 or 3 of your Dark Magicians, and then we'll be able to go off or even play the game very effectively. But there are ways around it. The common card for that is Cypher Lord Omega. By the looks of things, with the interaction with DevPro, it's probably likely that the ruling with Omega returning the face down cards to the graveyard is going to be that they're flipped up. It seems to happen like that on DevPro. I tried it out yesterday with streaming with DDDs, and I put back some my face down cards from Pot of Cupidity into the graveyard, and they flip back up. So it's a possibility for Shiranui and DDD. And speaking of DDD, they're coming along now, actually, because I don't actually know which ones are going to be coming up, actually. But Pot of Cupidity, this is an OTK deck. You want those extra 2 cards. It could let you open up with Titanic Galaxy, Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, and Cypher Lord Omega, or GDD Siegfried, which is great. You're not going to be playing the grind game with a deck like DDD. You're wanting to OTK. That's why there's so much little back row. Not to mention, this will allow you to access your side deck options faster than your opponent. It has the downside of possibly banishing those side deck options, but you'll know where they were anyway. So yeah, it's all risk reward factor in this deck. And then there's heroes. They're even cutting down card demise compared to this. There's no upstarts at all. That's how much they value Pot of Cupidity compared to upstarts. And card demise at 2, because this deck it doesn't have much of a hand presence, to be fair. It's quite set them all on the board and helmet on. Pot of Cupidity can help with that. Then we have something like Evil Swamp, something that doesn't top much. I think this is the first top I've seen for the April ban list, and Pot of Cupidity at 2 most likely helped that. It increases the consistency. More or less everything at Modern lineup is a free of, so there's not as much downside of losing a couple copies of them cards. Then we have Metamorphosis. Metamorphosis have been using this quite a lot as well. And Metamorphosis is actually evolving into something very weird with Zolkin and Cyberstein abuse, which is not good for TCG, because we may not be able to get this back in the TCG. I'm already preparing my playset, essentially, if it does come back, but you never know. I've gone off topic, but Pot of Cupidity can be very good. You can get out your one-offs like Metamorphosis Fusion, Metamorphosis Combination, Metamorphosis Counter from the deck, so it doesn't hinder you as bad. This can also be usable in Mermail as long as you're able to set up, and then you're able to use it as a final push to go for your OTK, as long as you can get those one-offs out of the deck like Deep Sea Diva, or 2-offs like Atlantean Dragoons and Megalo. As long as you get those out of the deck, you can then use Pot of Cupidity and possibly really profit and go for that OTK that you may have not been able to do without Cupidity. And it can enable something like this. I mean, this is a bit of a monstrosity to my eyes, because 60 cards. I don't think I've ever played a 60 card deck in any competitive sense ever. Just look at this. There's so much things you could do in there. Cyberstein getting like Stereo, Sulkin plays, Control with Magic Spectre, Unicorn, Guiding Ariadne for all those counter traps, and then Cupidity. Increase the consistency. That's 12 cards less than that deck. That makes it look like a 48 plus 45 plus possibly 30. Well, that just replaces itself, but 42 essentially, 39 card deck. That looks like a 39 card deck from this just because of what you can do with this. Unfortunately, you can't activate multiple in the same turn, but they had to have some restriction on it, obviously, even though it's so abusable. And then there was stuff like this, where they even... This is just a bit weird as well with Clephon Samurai Infinity, but Cupidity increases consistency. It's going to be doing its plays a lot faster than a deck that's not running Cupidity. And it can enable stuff like PSY-Frame to top. PSY-Frame is not commonly topped in the OCG. It's topped a few times, but not commonly. More tops in TCG than the OCG. But Cupidity can increase that consistency. And essentially this is like 38, 35 card deck, maybe 33, 32 if you class those as well, depending on what you draw from this. It can be very, very powerful indeed. And Khalifa also using this with Cardomize and Upstarts to keep their consistency and set up their lockdowns, skill drain, macrocosmos, compulse, and huge revolution to add those twin twisters, which are common. And we're back to the beginning. So essentially, this is a very powerful card. I think it will do a lot in the TCG. It's something to pick up. Probably let the hype go down slightly, but I think it will definitely be expensive and will definitely be secret. No matter, like, it will be a shock print common, but you never know. You never know indeed. So tell me your thoughts on this card. What deck would you run this in and why? I would like to know. Leave it down in the comments below. So thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe if you enjoyed this. I want to see further content. If you've got any comments for my decks, or suggestions for my decks or my channel in general, leave them down below in the comments. Check my polls out, which are beginning top of this video, which I always like to know your feelings on. And yeah, thank you for watching. If you want to see when I'm streaming, please look at my Facebook page, which is in the description below. Thank you for watching. Signing out.